think that mine it's it's similar but different, and I feel like God told me that I should be removed from that environment. I set a deadline for myself, and I set that without consulting him. And the firing process was him saying, "No, it's gonna happen right now," and that I wasn't ready for. If I could be honest, wasn't ready for in many different ways. Welcome to the locdnpod.
We're your hosts,
Mina
and Shelly, here to bring you the conversations you didn't know you needed.
If you're ready to dive deep into unapologetic authenticity, you're in the right place.
But fair warning, if you're not here to be real and embrace your truth, this might not be the vibe for you.
We're on a mission to elevate our personal growth journeys through faith, breaking generational curses, and holding ourselves accountable.
So, if you're looking to surround yourself with positive energy and find tools to help you level up, lock in with us.
Okay, so we're gonna get into how God was like, this is gonna happen now. So I worked for the company. I was also in a corporate setting. I worked for them for 6 years, and it was a recommendation that I had gotten through a partner that I had at the time. His brother worked for the company, and I had just moved back to New York. This is me just finishing college graduation. I decided that the job that I worked at Express at the time. I was a manager at Express. I'm like, oh, I want to go back to New York to be with my friends. I want to spend the summer. So I put in a transfer for the New York location. I got it, came back to New York, and I just decided that I wasn't going to go back to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm like, I'm a New York girl. This life is not for me. The Southern life, it wasn't cutting it. I met some really great people along the way. I feel like I learned a lot about myself. It was good to kind of get out of the city, but I just knew that that season wasn't calling me to be in Charlotte. So moved back to New York. I'm with my partner. At the time we had lived together, and I needed more income because the transfer from state to state, they weren't giving me the same hours. They weren't looking at me the same. I went from a manager to just an associate. So it was a transition. So I needed like something else. So he put the recommendation in for me. I went. It was like this beautiful opportunity that I was able to take what I learned like as a paralegal and learn some stuff from like the business end and kind of mesh it and meet all types of like business owners and stuff like that. That's basically what we did. We were like a bunch of we helped businesses become better and grew them. So I'm with this company. I feel the story that resonated what you said about the way the company was marketed and the way you went through like the interview process, what everything was laid out as. It was like they had it going on. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I could do this. I'm like, I'm in the city. This pay is good. It's letting me exercise things that I know versus things that I don't know. I was able to meet a plethora of different types of people, and it felt really good, if I can be honest, in the beginning. So as time went on, I think the first thing that was like a red flag for me was the first Christmas party that I ever attended. I was like, oh, this is what y'all act like when there's alcohol involved and it's after hours. And
listen, them holiday parties will show a different side of the
coworkers. They was putting me in compromising positions in that holiday party. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. That was the first glimpse that I had at like, oh, I can't let y'all in too closely in this job because it seems like everybody is just for everybody in here. Everybody business is all around. I was like, y'all not about to have me in no shenanery. And at the time, the partner's brother, he told me that. He was like, I don't even mess with them like that. He said, this is who I mess with up in here. And I suggest you figure out who you mess with and keep it pushing. So that was my first and last holiday party out of that 6 years that I worked for that company.
Wow, that's very telling.
Wasn't doing it. So similarly to what you said, like the insubordination, as I started to see certain things and experience certain things that I knew were against company policy, that I knew were not okay, that I knew if I really wanted to take it to HR and make an issue about it, I could have. I started to see things and speak to those who I confided in or who I thought I could have confided in the company, and it backfired on me. Like those conversations weren't kept confidential. Those conversations came with retaliations, and the retaliations that came were them moving me from like location to location. Because the company is huge to the point where we have offices and locations in other cities and countries and things like that. So we had the flexibility to move people where we needed to. And the way it was presented to me wasn't because of my insubordination. I was being moved to help different centers achieve their goals. It was like you're being that was the way they made it seem. Sorry, that we're moving you to help different centers achieve their goals, as opposed to we're moving you because of what we're deeming as insubordination.
Yeah, of course not.
It was
they
so
never tell.
conveniently like put and worded, and oh no, we need your strengths here, and we need you this there. And when it was all said and done, when it came down to like the wire, I was like, yo, y'all are overworking people in here. It was to the point where some days I wouldn't be able to leave my desk to use the restroom because I had so many things going on. And me bringing these things to higher ups' attention, me bringing these things up when we had meetings, it was, everybody started looking at me differently, like, oh, why is she talking so much? Or why is she advocating so much? And being one of the only young Black women in such an environment already had people looking at me like, who does she think she is? And similar to Shelly, I'm not the one to just let it be swept under the rug and move around like it doesn't exist or like it's not happening. I'm going to say something, especially when I know what I am able to do and say and how I'm able to operate in my role. You're not going to make me seem like I'm crazy or like I'm just so far left because I'm advocating for the things that I know are right. So with all of this going on, I feel like year after year, it just kept getting worse. And as it kept getting worse, I would ask myself, I'm like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to stay? Are you going to go? I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm going to go, but it's going to be as a birthday gift to myself. And I said I was going to write the resignation. I didn't write it. I kept just going, and I felt as though things were getting better because they were offering me things and they were putting things in place to kind of make me forget what was really happening
every time,
and then putting training people on my plate. So it's like, okay, you have more responsibility, so you're needed, or you're of substance, or you're valued here. So I kept working and putting my best foot forward, even in the midst of feeling defeated, even in the midst of feeling like I was being come for, even in the midst of having HR things go on within the company, from associate to associate and higher up to associate and all in between. Even in the midst of all of those things going on, I still was showing up and doing my job. And I hit that pinnacle too, from the point of when it became I was going to work because I enjoyed it versus I was going to work just because I was going to work. That shift happened over time and gradually, and it wasn't until it literally shortly after you put yours in that happened, like maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 max, right after the fact. And the day was so weird to experience that day because my direct supervisor had just literally told me he had a meeting, and he was like, yo, I had to sing your praises in that meeting because you have been a pleasure to work with. You know your job, you're super bright, you're punctual, you always do things that I need you to do. I never have to ask you to do things because you get it done. Like, you meet all your deadlines. You're great to work with. So they waited until I worked the entire day after having, and I'll keep this part, I guess I'll keep it a little confidential, but I'll let you guys know. I reported something, and when I reported that thing, I reported it openly in our team's like chat. We have like a team's text chat. Put it in there, and when I put it in there, I was urged by the higher ups to take it offline.
Oh wow!
And in that moment, I should have known, but I'm thinking, nah. The person that I confided in with this and that told me to take it offline, I've known her since I got hired. Even though she's been doing shady things, I'm thinking that she'll take this a little more seriously because of the context of the situation. Right. No. They waited until minutes before I had to leave, called me into a conference room, and pulled out the stack of said insubordinations that happened over those 6 years as I moved from location to location.
Bro, when a job is getting ready to get rid of you, they will start secretly documenting everything, like
to build a case.
The emails will start looking different. Now people they CC will start to be included. Yeah, yes.
My biggest mistake was not putting it in an email thread and like a direct email thread to her, and also not printing out those things before I left that day. Those are my 2 biggest mistakes, because I guarantee you the outcome of it would have been a lot different, but I had to let it go and allow God to work it on my behalf, because the process of going through dealing with companies and corporations that let you go, and you're trying to, retaliation is not, it doesn't come easy. It comes with a price.
Yeah.
It comes with much effort. This state alone doesn't make that easy. So I didn't even go through that process because I was like, you know what? They're gonna get theirs however they get theirs. So I reported it. They take me to the conference room. They showed me the case that they built, and I literally went through each thing. And I was like, wow, I was doing my job here. We spoke about that. I was doing my job here. We spoke about that. This is what you put on that paper for that situation. Wow, I don't remember this being articulated in this way. And they have HR on like a Zoom call. In the moment that the HR representative was communicating the options and how we would go about the termination, I let her finish. I asked them what they needed from me. I took my badge off, all of my office keys. I slid it across the table, and I walked out of the room. I didn't say, I wish you guys, I didn't say anything because nothing that would have come out of my mouth in that moment would have been genuine or even true. So I did what the mature me was supposed to do, and I got my things, and I left. And when I told my direct supervisor, I waited for him to come out the building, and he literally came outside and grabbed me and hugged me. And me and him were just standing there, and I just started crying. He's like, yo, you're an amazing person. Like, him and I became so close. That was the first time that I think I had like a male supervisor that I was able to bond like that with. We talked about everything, and in the midst of doing that, we still did our job. So when he came out and hugged me, he was like, yo, I literally just was saying, like, please don't take her off my team. I want to work with her because she is probably one of the better people that I've worked with, and he worked with that company way longer than I did.
But they don't care.
But they don't care about that. So it was at that moment that I walked out of that job, and I was like, well, your time was up a long time ago. You tried to stretch it. And
you did. You tried.
I tried to stretch it. I really did. But there was such a freedom that came with them terminating me. That was the first time that I had ever been terminated from a job. Literally, never. And I think it kind of, in the beginning, it was like a ego thing. Like, damn, why didn't I have the chance to leave before y'all let me go? But I knew that it had nothing to do with them. It was God saying, I've been told you to leave. Anyway, and it been uncomfortable and it been stressful. So when that weight was lifted off of me, I just knew that it was time to figure it out. And that's what I had to do. I had to figure it out. That's how I took the leap to enroll in culinary school. That is how I just decided to start looking at life a little differently. And I'm like, I can't continue to live in the what ifs. I have to live in the what makes sense, in the what feels right to my nervous system, into what's not causing me stress, into what's not making me question my worth. Because that job had me questioning my worth. Like, am I a mean person? Am I this? Am I that? And all of the things that I know I am not. And that was another thing that reminded me that I didn't need to be there, because I know who I am. And to be in an environment that had me questioning that on a consistent basis, it was doing a hell of a thing on my self-esteem, bro. And I didn't even realize it.
When I realized it, I feel like what makes it worse is when you realize it and you communicate it, and it's still like it's hitting a brick wall. I told one of the supervisors at the time, I was like, listen, like, it's getting harder and harder to come into work every day. Like, y'all are noticing that I've been my latenesses have changed and have increased.
That was a season. Is that
for not me? Telling y'all
that
anything?
Was a season for me. My latenesses, I was like, oh, that's a whole nother story.
I didn't even care. I woke up, I'm like, well, I'm gonna get to work when I get there. I'm no longer rushing and killing myself to run to adhere to this new rule that was placed when there's no reason for us to be at the office at 8:59 a.m. 8:59:55, whatever the last 0.5555 seconds.
I really hate when it was ridiculous. The timing thing, and that was one of the things I had to call them out on. I'm like, I've been here for how many years already, and y'all are just talking about these 10-minute grace periods that have been bestowed upon me since the last 3 years. Y'all want to talk about it in year 4? I'm like, so that's not part of the handbook?
It got to a point they rewrote. You cannot tell me they didn't rewrite. They rewrote the handbook and emailed it like, oh, y'all didn't have it now? Now y'all have it. And I'm going back to my original copy. Like, let me make sure all these words is the same, because y'all not about to play us like we boo-boo the fools.
they did the same. They retrained everybody. They resubmitted certain things, and they had us on a consistent basis doing these things to make it seem like they were equipping us to be the employees that they needed us to be. And it was like, yo, y'all 3 years too late. Especially people who have been here. We're not gonna just simply drop the habits that we had that you allowed and saw, because there's no way to tell me that you weren't monitoring everybody the same way you're monitoring everybody now. Like, make it make sense.
It was crazy to the point where in my agency we ended up finding out that because the different teams had different supervision styles, people were getting work done and completing the paperwork differently. And differently meaning it was going against what the I forgot what the HUD, like what their standards were. Mm-hmm. So we had to go back for documents and clients that have been closed for 2 years back, almost 3, and rewrite or correct. I'm like, first of all, if this was how the paperwork or the file was left when this person quit or left this job, how come y'all didn't notice it? This is we're marking papers in 2023. We're looking at 2019. We're looking at 2022. And we're like, how did this get by? You're the final check on everything. Like, how did you just, everything was just going by and you just, okay, all right, nobody checked. It has to go through at least 3 different eyes before it gets to the highest high. And it went through all 3 of y'all. None of y'all saw it, but it falls on us. Yeah, no.
That's an indicator of how you know you're under poor leadership too, because certain things that were coming up too when I was moving from location to location, I'm like, you're putting me here to work a miracle when the miracle hasn't been worked in the last 3 years. So it's going to take me longer than you think it is to improve what you want to see improved. And then in the midst of that, I'm working with clients that you've pissed off, clients that you probably owe money, and you've promised things and you're over promising certain things. So I'm dealing with de-escalating your messes in addition to cleaning up a mess that was here before I got here, on top of me not having help to do so. And you want to talk about deadlines, and you want to talk about the things that I'm not doing. You played and you tried it, and not people were talking about it in private from coworker to coworker, but when it came to saying it with your chest, I was one of the only ones, really.
Everybody disappeared when it's time to.
And then everybody who was saying it with their chest, one by one, we was just
it's
domino effect, and it's crazy. But it just goes to show, when people question why I'm a multi-passionate human being, when they question why Women Unwind exists, why I'm a chef, why Shea Remedies exists, why I started a podcast, why I'm a dancer, don't ask me those questions, because I have control over what all of those things look like, and nobody can one day pick up and say, I'm taking this from you because I don't think you are deserving of this.
That's how it translates at the end of the day.
Get things for yourself. If I don't ever tell you anything else on this podcast, you don't have to be as extensive with the multi-passionate ventures as I am, because everybody is not cut from that cloth. But find something in this life that is yours, that nobody can take from you, that nobody can put a start and stop on. It is yours. You call the shots. You're the boss. Whatever that looks like. It could be a lemonade stand. It could be making your own body products. You could be good at giving massages. You could be good at retwisting locks. You could make earrings. We saw this lady walking around the street selling earrings. Do something for you, because these companies, you are a number. I don't care what salary you got. I don't care what office you have. When they are done with you, when you no longer serve a purpose, or you start to become problematic, you will become eliminated, and you'll be the person that's looking like, damn, I thought I was so valuable, and I go golfing with my boss every Friday, and you think that that's the value that you hold, but really and truly you are just doing something to help them be richer and make more money. So why not take the same time to do it for you? So that's my story and my takeaway for y'all for this episode. Find something in this life for you, because baby, these companies and corporations are not it.
No. And this life, and even if you have been blessed to find a corporation that works for you, like, kudos to you. Cherish that. Really take advantage and use, like, network. Really use the people that you're connected to. And I don't mean use like take advantage of them in a negative way, but use them to your benefit. If your personal goals aligns with the personal goals of the mission statement of the agency that you work for, make it work for you too. Like start implementing certain programs or make certain suggestions that you can add to your own resume that you will be able to now say like, listen, I did this and this and this for this company, and I'm able to now, I have the skill and the knowledge to do that on my own. Like I don't have to be backed by anybody. I can pull up, I can show up, I can speak out, and I'll know what I'm talking about. So find that thing, whatever it is for you, and make sure everything aligns with make sure it makes sense to what you're doing and the path that you're trying to go to. So even if you are mostly passionate about different things and you feel like they can't coexist, or like one thing doesn't match to another, just figure out, like we said the last episode, it might be something just for you, something that you just do on Sunday mornings just because you like it. It doesn't have to be broadcasted, it doesn't have to be turned into a whole business. Like just do it. I know plenty of people like that have businesses now that just started as a hobby. They just did it because they liked it, and the only reason it became a business was because the demand was so high from people that they knew and they loved. And word of mouth is so powerful. So if you're good at what you do, people are gonna want your services as well.
Yep, you are valuable. You're valuable without the backing of a company or letters, or even, we all appreciate education in whichever capacity you decide to receive it. But even without that, you are still valuable. Okay, and that's something that I think is we can add to that takeaway list. Like you're valuable without the attachment of anybody else or anything to you.
Yeah, that would be my piggybacking off of that. I'm gonna snatch that and add it to my takeaway. You are deserving. Like, honor yourself, honor your intuition, that gut feeling. When the minute you sense something is wrong, try to identify that. Where is that coming from? And are you in a position to make a change? Because there's certain things we can't control, right? But if it's something that's in your control, plan for it. Like if you're not in a position where you can quit immediately and give immediate notice, like plan out. Like, all right, I'm gonna give myself 30 days. I'm gonna give myself 2 months. I'm gonna give myself till next year. If you're constantly going through the same things after you've already become aware that it's affecting you negatively and your ability to work effectively, start creating a plan and get up out of there. Because I promise you, the longer you stay in that environment, the longer you stay with the person, the longer you stay with the habit, it's just gonna get worse. And once you see it, you can't unsee. So as it's getting worse, you're gonna literally be able to pinpoint like, like this is really trying to get me.
What's that mean? The pressure is getting worse.
Yeah.
The pressure is getting worse. Every day when I go into work, it's getting worse. Okay? Don't come for me. That was just my version of the African accent, y'all. But that was how that job for me. The pressure was getting worse. It was getting worse
every day.
To send to whom it may concern. And as forementioned in my last email, it was getting worse.
It was even so bad when I was in Costa Rica. It was so bad. An email had got sent out regarding one of my clients. Now, they knew I was on vacation, but the fact that everybody knew about the case and nobody was able to advocate clearly for my client, I was like, and I think I don't know if I had just gotten there or this was day 2. But I'm like, I'm trying not to let the email get to me, but I'm like, I have to respond and I have to check what's happening here because they're trying to, it was just a lot. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit myself down. I'm going to respond to this email. I'm going to tell my coworker about it just so that she knows. And I'm not going to look at this phone ever again. I sat there. I read the director at the time. She was this white lady. And I'm like, listen, you said you were going to take on this case.
Sarah.
Maybe I didn't say like that. But I was like, Sarah. Listen, I was like, you decided to take on this case. And you said you were going to do everything. And I was like, you don't do that by doing this. Like, I literally, like, I read her in front of everybody, not like in a respectful way. I was like, respectfully, I don't think that's the right move to make. Like, our focus is the client. Why are we trying to do this? Said that, gave my suggestions. I said, I'm currently on vacation, but when I return on this day, I would like to have a meeting so we could clarify all of this stuff. And I went to before I even sent it, I had one of the girls that I literally just met on this trip. Like, can you please read this email? Because you don't know me personally, so I feel like you will have an unbiased opinion, and you don't really know what's going on in this agency. But I'm like, can you just read this email and let me know if it's like rude, if it's disrespectful?
It comes off abrasive.
And she said, no, everything you said makes sense. I said, okay, that's all I needed. Send. But I'm like, I'm on vacation and I can't even depend on my supervisors to. I really could not. And that situation was so like sensitive and like timely. I couldn't. And I'm like, yeah, they about to start this whole war for no reason. I'm like, why are we jumping like without even knowing the proper facts? It was just, I felt like the adult in the room full of kids. In the room full of kids. So that would be my takeaways. Honor yourself. The minute you get that feeling that something ain't right, it don't matter. I promise it don't matter what it is. Honor yourself, because even if it hurts, even if something you have to grieve and something you have to deal with the disappointment, with the hurt, with the discouragement, like it's a better situation will come for you. It's always gonna come for you.
I think the lock-in today should look a little different. If you were here last episode, then you know what a lock-in is. But if you were not here, a lock-in is just us checking in with us. But I really feel like this segment, we have to do 2 parts. If you saw part 1, you are in part 2 now. Episode 3, we have to break it up. Because we had a lot to say.
Yeah.
We had a lot to say. But the lock-in is for you today. So what do you need from yourself today? What do you need from yourself this week? What do you need from yourself maybe in a situation that you may be in that makes you feel uncomfortable in certain environments where you know you shouldn't be, but you don't know what the execution plan is like. Like, what do you need from yourself? How do you need to lock in? That's what we want to know.
Yeah.
That's what we want to know.
And if you don't want to share, that's fine. But if you do want to share, whether it's publicly for other people to see or even anonymously
in a DM,
send us a DM, send us an email, put it in the comments, right? In YouTube, on Instagram, wherever. Like, let's encourage one another. If you see a comment that kind of someone talks about being discouraged or whatever the case may be, send them a little word of encouragement.
To get through
anything. You might see something in the comments that could encourage you in the season that you're in. So feel free to share, feel free to read other people's. If you get encouraged, inspired, please act on that. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, we want to hear from you guys. We want to grow our community, and we're inviting you again into our friendship. So as you decided to lock in and take us on your journey, as we take you on our journey, we want to hear from y'all. So once again, we are your hosts. I'm your girl Mina.
I'm Shelly.
This is the locdnpod. We drop new audio episodes on all streaming platforms every Wednesday at 7 p.m. as well as
visuals every Thursdays at 7.
Okay.
So we'll catch you on those days and those times.
Yes, we are on YouTube. We are on Patreon. We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram. If there are any platforms that you like to see us on, let us know. We can't say that we're going to do it immediately, but at least we'll have it on our radar so we know how to connect and how to reach more of our locked in community. So until next time, stay locked in. It looks like that's a wrap on today's episode of the Locked In Pod.
We appreciate you for being a part of our journeys and taking us along on yours. Make sure you hit us up on all our platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and TikTok. We want you in our community.
Remember, we drop new episodes every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Set those reminders and turn those post notifications on.
And don't sleep on us. Stay locked in with us in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts and stories.
Until next time, keep it unapologetic and authentic.